I'm still seeing pre-live. Is it? um, Hi, everyone. Welcome to Introduction to 30 Days of Google Cloud. Um, am I live yet? One sec. Okay, so let's get started. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join this meeting. I understand a couple of you have doubts regarding the program and the event itself. So don't worry, we're right here to solve any questions and queries you might have. So let's get started. So first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Sanjana Shivkumar. I'm the Cloud Platform Core here at DSC Reva University, and I'll be a speaker for this hour. I'm from fifth semester, and my interest usually is web development. But as of recently, I've been interested in cloud computing too, and I'm an instructor for this Qwiklabs program. So let's get you started with your challenge lab today. All right. So I understand most of you will want to conclude this meeting as soon as possible. So I'll try to keep it short and hopefully we can conclude soon. Okay, so the agenda for this meeting is the following. We will spend the first 5 minutes to understand the contents of this program, the next 5 to understand the services offered by Google Cloud Platform. Then we will take you with the introduction of Qwiklabs, how to do your Qwiklab quests. And finally, we will have one hands-on experience as well as the help in anything that you might need. So since all of you are from Reva University, you obviously know that theoretical knowledge is a must right here. Any book that you read, you know you're going to get the theoretical knowledge that you need. But when it comes to actual implementation of your skills, you're going to need industry skills to launch your careers. And that's not something you can just read in a book about. It's something you need to gain by putting on your experience and giving some manual work of your own. So to get started with your industry skills, we're going to introduce you to the 30 Days of Google Cloud program. So let us tell you what your journey would look like, the concepts you'll be learning, and the advantages you'll receive. Okay. So I think you must know about this. If you don't, let me tell you. There's 2 tracks to this program. The first track is about cloud engineering, and the second track is about data science and machine learning. So you're allowed to either do both or any one of the tracks that you choose. So you will receive prizes accordingly. So the first track here is known as the cloud engineering track. By completing the quests under this track, you will learn to deploy solution elements, include infrastructure components such as network systems and application services. This might seem like a little too complicated for you, but don't worry. Every single lab is self-paced. It has step-to-step instructions of everything that you need to do. You just have to go through them clearly. So the first track has 6 quests, and today we will be talking about the Create and Manage Cloud Resources Challenge Lab. Okay, the second track we have is known as Data Science and Machine Learning track. Uh, in this track, it's mostly about AI concepts, and it will give you proficiency in key topics such as being a data analyst, a marketing analyst, business intelligence professional, as well as a data engineer. Here, you will also be exploring concepts such as BigQuery, where BigQuery is like a serverless data warehouses. Um, you can also explore machine learning and other concepts too. This track is also consists of 6 quests. So in total, it'll be around 11 quests and you will receive 11 skill batches. Okay, skill batches. Let's talk about what is an actual skill batch. So when you complete any of these quests, and I say quests, not labs, because quests are basically a bunch of labs. So each quest may have about 6 to 7 labs. Once you complete all these labs along with an extra challenge lab, you will receive something known as a skill badge. So these are like proof of your participation and the skills that you've gained from these labs. And of course, you can go ahead and share them on all your socials, it's all your GitHub, LinkedIn, and whatever you need to. So we have a total of 11 skill batches to be earned for both the tracks. So let's talk about cloud. So I'm assuming most of you have heard about the word cloud before. I mean, there's cloud computing, there's cloud platform, but what does cloud really mean? Like, let's talk about maybe there's a startup that says, okay, we're going to do something, we're going to do all our storage and cloud computing. But it's actually a very commonly used buzzword, but what does it really mean? Before we get into that, let me explain a concept to you known as scaling. Okay, I'll give you a familiar example. Hopefully, all of you can relate to the same. All right. So remember this game, Pokemon Go, right? Obviously, we can't play it as often in the current circumstances. I mean, all the Pokemons you'll find, it's going to be around your house. But when this game was initially launched, they didn't expect the number of people to play it as we do right now. They only targeted 1 times the player traffic, and the worst case estimate for this game was around 5 times this target. So that's like they probably expected maybe 1 million players, and 5 million was the worst target. But as soon as this game was released and it gained popularity, they reached 50 times the initial target. That's 10 times the worst case estimate. So they had to act fast and scale up their resources to let other people play these games as seamlessly as everyone else. That's where GCP comes into play. GCP or Google Cloud Platform is a platform that helps you scale up resources or scale down resources according to your needs. And let's talk about Google Kubernetes Engine, HTTP load balancing, Google Cloud Data Store, or all these concepts that you will be learning using a hands-on lab session today when it comes to all these quests. While we're at this, let's discuss a concept known as time sharing. Okay, assume there's a huge company, let's say IBM. Let's say they have 2,000 computers that they just aren't using. They don't know what to do with it. They don't know what to do with it. They just have those computers lying around. They might as well use that and use those resources, right? So let's say someone thinks, okay, we're not using this. Let's rent this resource out. This is what is known as time sharing. So when you want to create let's say a virtual machine on the cloud, you're basically using someone else's resources to do the same, and you're paying almost a little to nothing fee, depending on your scalability. Another example for this game-based cloud platform resources is also Apex Legends. So yeah, okay. So what exactly is cloud? So we have basically 3 types of cloud-based services: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. So infrastructure as a service. So this includes raw resources such as a virtual machine, networking, storage, all that. So these are like fundamental building blocks when it comes to cloud computing. When you consume infrastructure as a resource, you have greater control over the resources, but also greater management overhead. For example, like I said, consider a virtual machine. You need to install, upgrade, and patch all the software required to run this application. You can also configure the virtual machine to scale up or down depending on the load of your application. For example, Google Cloud Computing Engine, networking, load balancers, etc. These are all examples of infrastructure as a cloud, or IaaS. Let's talk about platform as a service. Platform as a service, or PaaS, provides a platform with managed services where runtime environment and network settings are pre-configured. So this means that you don't have to worry about how you're going to scale up all these resources or the other way around. Google will take care of that for you. That's where platform as a service comes into play. For example, Google App Engine is an example of platform as a service. It's pre-configured with runtimes for Java, Python, Node.js, and so much more. software upgrades, and patches are automatically applied. You don't have to do anything manually. So load balancing also is pre-configured. So this enables your developer to focus on your application logic instead of worrying about the infrastructure setup. Finally, software as a service. When it comes to software as a service, is when entire applications are managed and made available in Google Cloud environments. Gmail, YouTube, anything that you can think of as a Google app is under software as a service. So let us understand what exactly cloud is right now. So cloud is a set of tools that helps you spend less time on managing your product and more time on creating it. All of this together comes together to make Google Cloud possible. Okay. No need to manage your own infrastructure. Use managed services instead. So, for example, consider the infrastructure, let's say, for an online game. You can use Google Cloud Services to store images and video files. You can use high volume or semi-structured data, such as streaming or game data, relational data, such as user ID, name, and so on. So when it comes down to all of this, you don't have to worry about how you're going to store it, how you're going to manage it. We'll take care of that. So there are multiple options when it comes down to this, such as Kubernetes, engine for your application runtime environment. I don't know if you've heard of this name before, but Kubernetes is basically an open source container orchestration system for automating computer application deployment, scaling, and management. What this basically means is that, again, don't worry about how your application is going to take place. Just worry about creative your application is going to be, all the features that it's going to have. The scaling and everything will be taken care by Google itself. So you'll be learning more about Kubernetes in Lab 4 of your track 1. So this is
Hey guys, we're having some technical difficulties. Just stay for a few seconds. I'll just get back to you. We'll be live in just a minute. Just give us a minute, guys.
hi. Niren, am I audible right now?
Yeah, you're audible, Sanjana.
Okay. So sorry about that, guys. I know you've experienced technical issues this whole semester. So let's get started again. Okay, like I was saying, no need to worry about managing your own infrastructure. You just have to use managed services provided by Google. So I don't know where I was cut off, but yeah. So the examples of companies that use this software is Spotify, HSBC, Home Depot, Snapchat, etc. All right. So this is a really important thing because I know most of you might have gotten started with Qwiklabs already and you're having some issues and questions about the same. So please pay attention to this because we will cover all the questions that you have and all the rules that you need to follow. Okay. So first one, do not end your lab or your progress may not be counted. So this is like really important. So I know you people are very used to, like getting things done ASAP, but take at least 15 to 20 minutes for this lab and then go through the instructions one by one. Also, do not deviate from your instructions provided. It may cause your account to be blocked. I've got a lot of questions about the same, like why was my account blocked? I didn't do anything. If you repeat steps or if you use extra resources, this may result in your account being blocked. Guys, this lab isn't just like a simulation environment. You're actually using real life resources that people are using in case of like work type situations. So when you repeat a step, you might be using a lot more resources than you think you might. So just make sure that you go through the instructions slowly, understand every concept, and then follow through. Also, fourth one, do not open multiple tabs. This might cause your RAM to be, consumed a lot, or it might cause your internet connectivity also to have a bad impact. Also, this is important. Attempt labs only when you have a strong internet connection. So when you have a medium to weak internet connection and you try to do this, you might lose connection to your Cloud Shell or other resources that you might be accessing. And also, again, do follow the instructions provided precisely. I know you might skip over some steps thinking, okay, might not be important for the score, but it could be. So might as well just go through them nice and slow, understand the concepts, and then attempt the same. Okay. In case your Google Cloud platform crashes or if some error arises, do not panic. Sometimes what happens is that when a lot of people are accessing the same platform, you might have some issues and you might have your lab might not work. You might not be able to complete the steps given. It's all right. Refresh and log in again. Pretty soon, as soon as we end the session, we'll send you an FAQ document and we'll send you another resource where you can check to see if the lab that you're taking up is functional or not. So depending on that, please go ahead with it. So we will send these instructions again on the group, but do take a screenshot if needed so that you don't forget what to do. Again, if your account is blocked right now, or if you haven't received credits, or if you have some other issues, do not worry. Send us your name, your email, as well as your public profile URL, and we will get back to you, or we will escalate the issue to Google Clouds, who will take care of it. Okay, so let's get started with your first challenge lab, creating and managing cloud resources. So like I said, you can do either of the tracks, track 1, track 2, or both of them. Regardless, you'll have to go through this first quest called create and managing cloud resources. This will give you a little idea about what concepts are offered and how you can go about it. Okay, so since this is a hands-on lab sessions, and if you haven't done the challenge lab yet, I do recommend you guys starting along with me. I will talk you through it and I'll send you the code that needs to be followed. So, okay, navigate to qwiklabs.com. Once you go here, I'm already logged in, but if you aren't, do log in into your account. Once you get logged into your account, you will search for getting started, create and manage cloud resources. Also, guys, this is like, I know it's not an interactive session, but you can also post any questions that you might have in the FAQ section. Niren or myself will answer that. So yeah, if you're like following along with me, let me know. Okay, can't let me know. Just go to this page as well as I've completed this quest, but you can click on the enroll in this quest button. Once you click on enrolling this quest, you will see that there's 6 different labs and you need 13 credits. I think you might have gotten about 600 credits. Also, again, another let's reiterate back to the instructions. You might attempt a lab and you might not be successful. You might you didn't have enough time or you just didn't know how to do it. That's okay. Ideally, you just need 350 credits to complete both the tracks. But if you were to use extra credits to repeat a lab or repeat a quest, that's okay. That's completely fine. Like I said, take your own time. Do not rush through this. The last date is 5th of November. So you have nearly a month to finish all this in time. So once you get to this page, scroll scroll all the way down to the last challenge lab. This lab is this lab does not consist of step-to-step instructions. You will actually have they will give you a challenge and scenario, and you have to follow through. So once you go to this lab, do not click on the Start Lab button immediately. Go through the steps. This is all. If you've completed the other labs, this should be familiar. You just have to open the lab and log in with the credentials that they provide to you. Navigate to the challenge scenario section. So here they've given us the challenge here, and the first thing is to create a project jump host instance. So if you've done the second lab, which I think was VMware instances, this should be fairly easy. So I'll get started with you guys on the same. So click on the Start Lab button. Also, if you struggle with getting this thing done, it is very recommended to go with a incognito window and then start the same. So finish the captcha. This lab costs 5 credits, and you should have at least 600 credits in your account. So click on Launch with the credits. Okay. So navigate to the Start Lab button and click on Launch with 5 credits. Oh, I guess I'm facing issues too. Again, please refresh your page and start over. So since this is a little challenging lab, as the name suggests, you will need a lot more resources. So it will take some time to provision the same. So, just take some time. Don't worry about this. Yeah. Okay. Please read this instruction when you're in the console. Do not deviate from your lab instructions. This might cause your account to be blocked. So and even if your account is blocked, just send an email to dscsupport@qwiklabs.com. We will provide the email and everything in the community groups. So don't worry, just make sure that doesn't happen again, but just following the instructions thoroughly.
Hey guys, I can see that a few of you are asking that you haven't got the credits yet. So please mail us at dacdev@gmail.com if at all you have not received the credits yet. It might be that you might be disqualified for one of the 5 reasons what we had mentioned before in the chat, or it might just be that there is some internal issues due to which you are not getting the credits. Anyways, whatever it is, just mail us and we'll look into it.
Yeah. So have you guys navigated so far? Once you do, copy the username given right here and click on Open Google Console. Okay, by now I hope you guys know that even though through force of habit, you might use your personal email here. But when it comes to Qwiklabs, you have to use the email credentials that they provided here so that your progress can be counted for. So yeah, copy the username, go back to the Google console, sign in, again, same password. And this step is common for all the labs. So just make sure you follow through. Okay, do not update any of the details here. Okay. So if you've started with labs, you must see a page that looks like this. Oh, again, there's a terms and conditions. Yeah. So if you get a page that looks like this is known as the Google Cloud Platform. This is like an instance where you can see all of the services and all the billing details that you use here. You can customize it however you want. So let's go down here to the challenge scenario. So the first thing here is you have to create a new project jump host instance. So what this means is like to create like a VMware instance. So go to your Qwiklabs account, click on the navigation menu on the top left, go all the way down to compute engine. Once you reach the compute engine, go to the second menu that opens up and go to VM instances. Please let me know if you want me to slow down or not in the FAQ section. Okay, you'll end up in a page that looks like this. So this is basically to create a virtual machine instance that runs on Google's infrastructure. So click on the create button option. Okay, so these are the details about your instance that you're going to create. Okay, so here the name, I think over here they've mentioned that the name needs to be named as Nucleus Jump Host. Select that, copy it, and then change the name to that. Okay. The second instruction is you have to use the machine type of F1 micro. You can leave the other details as it is. Go to series, select on N1. This is the Intel CPU platform, CPU used here. And the machine type, here you should get the option as F1 micro. And also they're asking you to use the default image type, which is Debian Linux. You don't have to change that. So let that be the way it is. And click on create. Give it a couple of minutes. Depending on your internet connection, you should get a tick mark right here. When you do, you can check your progress. You can close up the tutorials. See, this might happen. Don't worry. This is due to connectivity issues. I think since most of us are doing this at the same time, this might happen. Just refresh your page again, and you should see the deploying section. Yes. So as you can see, I have created a VM instance right here. And once you get this tick mark, go back here and click on check my progress. So once you're done with this, your marks will reflect on the upper right corner right here. So you can see the zone that you've used is US1. We will talk about regions and zone in a minute. So you're done with the first progress. Let's navigate to the second one. So once you're done with this, the next one is to create a Kubernetes service cluster. So we talked about Kubernetes in the previous slides. In this assignment, they want you to create a cluster in the US East 1B zone. Okay, so for this, you're not going to navigate to any instance and do all this. You're just going to use something known as the Google Cloud Shell. It's like if you're using Windows, it's like a command line, and if you're using Mac OS, it's like the terminal. It's like the command line argument. Okay, so this is basically like a online terminal here. Okay, so we have a bunch of code to put up here. I think Niran will send you the FAQ, the document used for the same. So do copy the lines of code given in the document or type it out and execute them one by one. Also, we understand like these challenge labs can be a little confusing, especially if you're not so sure what you're doing, but that's completely fine. For the challenge labs, we will keep updating the documents and you can refer back and complete the same simultaneously. But the labs itself, you'll have to go at your own pace. And since it has very simple instructions, you just have to follow through precisely and you should be good. So I think in the set of instructions, set of documents that Nirin must have forwarded to the community groups, you will have a set of instructions, so a set of lines of code that you need to execute. So the first code is known as gcloud set compute zone. So this is basically used to set the zone. Okay, so you've updated the property. I'll try not to explain too much because I don't know if I have enough time to go through everything. Okay, so the second code is this. So this is basically used to authorize your GCP API calls. Again, guys, please go through this very slowly. Do not repeat instructions. You might end up using more resources. Okay, so the second, once you type in the second instructions, you can ignore all the warnings like we always do. But this will take some time as your cluster is being created. So don't constantly refresh the page. Just wait till you get the command prompt back, and then you can continue with your instructions. Meanwhile, I'll check if you guys have any questions.
Also, Jagadish Reddy have asked what is this thing known as too many instances. So you generally need to create only n number of instances, whatever they've asked you on the challenge lab. Suppose they've asked you to one, you have to create only one, and you have to create only the specific instance that they have asked you. For example, they've asked you to create 4 vCPUs. You create only 4 virtual CPUs. You do not go and create 64 virtual CPUs. That way, one thing. Think all the resources like Sanjana said are actual live resources somewhere in the US, and Google is actually spending money for them. So you'll be blocked because you're using a lot of resources which are totally unnecessary. And if you create more than one instances, it's gonna tell too many instances, and the GCP is gonna block you telling the same error. So if you're getting that error, see if you've already created the instances. Sometimes instances take around 2 minutes to get deployed. So just wait for a while and refresh and see. So if Fi isn't working, try Control plus Fi. That's a hard refresh, so that may work.
Absolutely, Nitin. And if you guys do get stuck in some step, you can always contact us. You can always send an email to DSC itself. So you know you don't have to worry about this. So like I said, this will take a while. All right, so we're done with this step. Like I said, once you receive the command prompt back, you're doing well. Let me make this a little bigger. All right. All right, so the third command is this. I think it was only the second command that takes that long, so you don't have to worry about the rest. Okay, this is the fourth command. So once you get like a verification right here, and then you get the command prompt, then type it out. Do not try to type in everything at once and click enter. That might not work. So we're basically creating like a sample hello app deploy container, and we're exposing it on port 8080. If you have gone through the other labs, this should be a pretty familiar topic. Okay. So once we're done with that, we want to see if it's up and running. So you use the command Qwiklabs get service. Okay. Once you do this, you'll in the external IP address, you'll see that it says pending. So that means it hasn't been deployed as of yet. So give it about a minute or two, and you can click on the arrow up button to get the same command. And when click enter, check again. It says pending again. Give it a couple of more seconds. Right. So now we don't have the pending prompt. Instead, we have an external IP address. So copy this IP address, go to another tab, click enter. And remember, we exposed it on port 8080. So give it a colon and type in 8080. You should get a similar output. Once you get this, that means you've completed it successfully. Congratulations. Go back to your prompt and then click on the check my progress control. So sometimes what happens is when you check your progress, you might not get the tick mark immediately. In that case, go to this menu on the upper right hand and click here. So you will get something like this. You will either get assessment completed or check the steps you've completed again. So that's fine. You can do that. Okay. So the third part is to set up an HTTP load balancer. So what does this mean? I think it's better explained in the fifth lab, I think. So you should go through that. So let's just execute this. Whatever command that they give you in this blue square right here is probably something that you should execute unless it says output. So look at the commands carefully. So copy this command, go back to your Cloud Shell, and click enter once. Try not to click enter multiple times. Okay, so here we're going to create an instance template, target pool, managed instance group, and a firewall rule. And a bunch of other commands. Again, all of these commands are given in the document that Nilan just sent. So do check the community group if you've received the same. Let us know if you haven't. So close up other tabs so it doesn't take too much of your RAM or your internet speed. So let's go back here. So to create an instance template, the first command that we're going to use is this. Again, enter once, and it would have created. Okay. So the second command, okay, go through this carefully. For the second command, once you paste it and click enter, you will get a question saying, do you mean region Asia Southeast 1? Click on N, not Y. Do not click Y, click on N. Once you do this, you'll get different bunch of regions here to be used. But here, in this case, we're using US East 1. So type in the corresponding number, which is 19, and click on enter. All right, so it's created an NGI NX pool for you. Okay, so I think the third step here is to create a managed instance group. So for that, the command is the following. Give it a minute. Right, so it's been created now. Okay, so the fourth command is to create a firewall rule to allow traffic ETTCP. So let's do that. Okay. So I know these commands might seem a little confusing, but if you're like hoping to get a job in the cloud computing industry, these are commands you'll probably be using a lot more often. So if you're like confused about what these commands actually mean or what they do, you can always ask us, or you can go through the labs once more to gain a better understanding. Or again, you can always do what we always like to do. You can Google the same, and I'm sure you'll find a lot of tutorials and a lot of instructions and based on the same. So you can go through those. Okay, creating a health check. Okay, so that's done too. Okay, so now we have to create a backend service and attach the managed instance group. So this command here, gcloud compute forwarding rules list, this basically lists out your forwarding rules that you've created. Again, guys, please go through this one by one. Please do not repeat the same steps over and over, because you might not think much of it, but it will take up resources that you do not want. And sometimes you might lose connection to this terminal right here, and you will get a reconnect button on the upper right hand. Click on the reconnect. You might be prompted to log in again. Do that, not to worry. Okay. So I think this is the health command that we had over here, creating a health check. Right. Okay, so now we're going to create the backend service and attach the managed instance. Again, guys, like verify the commands. If you get an error, try to like look through what you did. If you've like had an error related to something you've not created, if you missed a step, or if you have some kind of syntax error, try to read through it. And if you're still facing difficulties, you can always text us here or ping us on the community group. Okay, so a backend services to attach the managed instance group is done. So we have to create a URL map and target the HTTP proxy. Trust me, these terms will be much more familiar once you're done, once you finish the labs itself. Okay. So now we're in the seventh step, which is to create a URL map and target all this. So it's literally that easy, guys. You don't have to like think about every step that you're doing. Just go through these commands, understand what they really mean, and you should be really good with this. All right. So the final quest for us here is to create a forwarding rule. And I think this will be the final command. again to list out the forwarding rules. Okay, so once you're done with all the commands that we've sent you, do not immediately go click on check my progress, because we need to make sure that these are actually being deployed. So in that case, go to the IP address of the first HTTP content rule, copy that, paste it in your browser. You will definitely get a 404 error at first. That's okay because it's still not deployed. So check that with the other IP addresses too, and give it a couple of minutes before you click on the check my progress button. So I think one or two might be deployed, but not everything at the same time. So again, be patient, check the URLs. Okay. So if you're not like into that, you can always check your instances in the same page that we navigated to before. So you can see all the uh, VM instances that are being created. So again, guys, you can see there's multiple of them being created right here. So if you do end up creating a few extra, it will be counted and it might not be fair to other people who are like trying to access the same resources. So yeah, go through these steps slow and steady. So I think meanwhile, while this is being deployed, you guys can ask any questions or any doubts you may have. And guys, it might take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes for the same to be loaded up. So to give it a while.
So meanwhile that happens, there are five important topics which I wanted to tell you guys. Firstly would be the challenge labs help document which I sent you. That's a document we at DUC are making for you so that you can, complete the labs easier. But that does not mean only you just copy paste it, because the main reason why we are conducting this is for you to learn something new and try out something which you generally cannot in your lab and in your general class environment. So we are actually providing this so that you can learn, and the proof of learning will be the challenge labs. But we understand that a lot of you here are beginners, and you might not know the correct command because you are not so new to CLI. So we have this challenge labs help, but you will not be able to copy paste from the challenge labs thing, because copy pasting it like that would make no sense whatsoever. And we cannot guarantee that all the labs, challenge labs, whatever we are doing will be there, but we can assure you that most of the labs, whatever are there for this particular quest, can come up. But we can't promise that all the labs will be there. So try your best there. So use this document only if you are facing any issues. If you are not facing any issues and you're confident and want to learn, do not open this document. Try to do it yourself. If you fail, it's fine, let the credits go. You have 600 credits, try it again. If 600 credit goes, I'll give you more credits. Credits is not a problem here. The only thing is you should learn something out of this. That's what we have been repeating again and again. So that's the challenge lab same thing. Do not misuse it. So second would be Qwiklabs status. We are again, there is another document with respect to Qwiklabs status. Now, what this is, a few students are facing issues with labs. Particularly, you might have done the lab correctly, but the lab's marking scheme would not work properly. There would be some bug or something like that. So what we DSEs across India have done is we have created a document where we'll be regularly updating if at all any lab is not working properly, or if it's undergoing maintenance, or if there is some issue with the lab. So check the document if at all you're facing any issues. If we have a red flag attached to the document, leave the lab, ignore the lab. Once all the problem is sorted, come back to the lab and do it. You can always ignore a particular lab if at all it is causing errors and go for the other lab, and you can always retry the lab. Thirdly, support and help. Like I said, use the community group for asking help. Don't ask silly helps. Like try to read the quick lab, steps. Go through the procedures patiently, because quick lab explains it to you very easily. It spoon feeds you everything. So with such kind of spoon feeding, it must be really easy for you to understand. So, but if at all you have any really difficult help where something is not working, or CLI is very difficult for you, CLI command line interface. So if at all that is very difficult for you, you can always ask for help in the support group, either us or some other participants. If any participant is really good with a command line interface, or if, with Qwiklabs in general, please help others. So that's the third thing. Fourth thing would be skill badges. A few people are asking us if saying that you have completed a few labs. Am I still eligible? If you have completed a few labs and if you have completed a few quests, no problem. You must not have any skill badges. We had explained before the difference between quest and skill badges. So if you have quest badges, no problem. But your skill badges must be after 26th September only. So if you have any skill badges which have gotten before 26th September, it will not be considered. If you have quest badges, no problem. Skill badges are the white color thingy, which is square. All the pentagonal thingy are the quest ones. So those are totally different. So the last one, if you have not received the credits, there are a few reasons you might not have received the credits email. Firstly, you might have entered the wrong email, obvious thing, or else you might have entered the wrong profile URL. We gave out another form to correct it. So if you have not filled the form before 3rd or 4th of October, you are not eligible for it. And the third would be if you are given that I do not have access to internet and Google Chrome. So if you don't have it, you can't do this labs through phone. As you saw it, you need to parallelly do it. You can split screen. I prefer split screen. It's very helpful. So you need to do all that, and you need a laptop for that. So if you're given no there, you'll be automatically out of the thing. If you are a student who already graduated, or if you're a faculty member, you're not eligible for this again. So if you had given the no for your graduation as 2020, you are not eligible. And if your email ID is a spam email ID, Google automatically removes your email ID if at all it's a spam. So even if you have entered all of this correct and you still have not gotten the credits, please mail us before 10th October. Make sure you mail us before 10th October so that we can take the necessary actions. And even if you have received the mail and not haven't gotten the credits, try it in incognito. Like Sanjana said, incognito is really helpful here, because it even there might be some previous cookies, or you might not be following anything properly, and incognito really helps here. So use incognito if at all you are not getting the credits. And if at all incognito is not working, mail us at dscreva@gmail.com, and we'll help you out.
Thank you, Niran. Okay, so as you see, I've gotten this deployment successfully completed. So you just have to refresh your page a couple of times. So when you go back here and you click on check my progress, it should give you a tick mark. Right. So once this is done, check your progress on the upper right hand and check if all of these progresses are completed. So once it's done, you can close up all your other terminals and yeah, tabs. Close up all these, and you don't have to log out. Just close this tab, click on leave, and you can click on your end lab. Again, guys, at least spend 15 to 20 minutes. Do not end the lab too early or too late. This is fine. So once you end this lab, you can leave a comment or a review, and you'll be done. So once you finish all these labs, you should get something known as a skill badge. This is what it'll look like. So this is basically something that you can share that's like a certification of the skills you've gained through the same. Okay, so if you followed along and you've gotten so far, thank you so much for being patient enough to listen to this. So this is what you have to do for all of the labs and all of the quests. So it's the same basic principle. Yeah, and also if you have something like this, you can do either one. You don't have to do both. Okay, so let's go back to the rest of the presentation. So I think a few of you still haven't received the credits, but that's okay. Please send us your name, email, and your public profile URL, and we will get that sorted out for you. Okay. So once you're done with all these steps, again, like you said, in this particular quest, you have 6 different labs, which you'll have to go through one by one. Again, if you have completed the lab previously before enrolling, it's completely fine. But make sure you don't receive the skill batches until you're done with this whole quest. Okay, so let's talk about the GCP services that you just used. I mean, it was easy, right? Just type a bunch of commands. But what really happens? So when every Google Cloud Platform services are associated with a project. Okay, so this project is used to track your resources. It's used to track your billing, and it's used to track all the service calls and APIs that you make. So let's say you're making an app, let's say you're making an e-commerce application and you want to deploy it. So you have this GCP platform, which is like an all-in-one place to keep track of all your customers, all your services, all your everything that you need to have will be in one place for you. Okay. So the Google Cloud Identity and Access Management feature. So what I think when you attempted the tour of Qwiklabs and Google Clouds, you might have come across this IAM role. So it's basically a role with a collection of permissions. Let's say you and a bunch of your friends are like working on a same project. How do you know like what access they have? How many people do you want to provide the create access to, or the delete access, or just the read access? So this is all managed by the same GCP platform. You just have to toggle through and provide all the instructions. Okay, regions and zones. Okay, let me explain this better. So regions are like independent geographic areas that consist of zones. For example, like if you have India, it's a region, right? So regions in Google, there's around 24 regions and 73 total zones that cover the entire globe. And every region has at least 3 zones. And except the US Central 1 region, which is the USA state Iowa, has 4 zones. Okay, so what is exactly a zone? You can think of this as analogous to like a data center. Only an example. A zone is designed to be set up an independent of other zones within a region. So let's say like you're deploying your application and one of the zones just stops working. What do? You can't just start over and tell people to be patient, right? So it automatically switches to another zone, which in the rare case, if it ever happens, if it's affected by a network outage or something, your application will still continue to work if it is deployed across multiple zones. So it is basically a deployment area for cloud platform resources within a region. So it should be considered as a single failure domain within a region. Okay, so in order to deploy like fault tolerant applications that works at all points of time with high availability, you should deploy your application across multiple zones. So this will like prevent unexpected failures. Okay, Cloud Shell and G Cloud. So we obviously just use Cloud Shell and G Cloud in this challenge lab. And what is it exactly? So basically, Cloud Shell is a Debian-based virtual machine, which makes it easy for you to manage your cloud platform projects, resources, and everything. So the Cloud Shell virtual machine is pre-installed Google Cloud SDK and other tools. SDK standing for, uh, sorry, just a second. Yeah. Okay. So Cloud Shell here, it also provides a command line access to virtual machine instances in a terminal window that opens up in the Google console. So you don't have to like install anything and get started with it. Everything is accessible right through the Google console. All right. So if you're still on board here and you're listening, thank you so much. And you just completed your first challenge lab. So congratulations. You can get started with the remaining quests. And if you have any doubts, you know how to get through to us. Okay. Also, make sure that you make your profile public. This is how we can track your progress and make sure that you're like following through. Okay. So that was all about the cloud computing track. Let's talk about the second track that you have, which is the data science and the machine learning track. Okay. What exactly is a virtual machine? A virtual machine is basically a software-based computer. You've likely worked with a virtual machine before. Sorry, a physical machine before. You know, a physical computer like has resources like CPUs, memory, disk storage, network configuration, and of course an operating system, and so many other softwares. But what is it? What exactly is a virtual machine? It's a software-based computer, and it's like a physical computer. It also has resources such as CPU, memory, operating system, etc. But it uses the physical resources of the host of the machine that it's running on. So every virtual machine has virtual devices that provide the same functionality as a physical one. They also have additional benefits like portability, management, and security. For example, you can launch a virtual machine, run applications at the same time, and you can destroy the same when you no longer need them. Think of VMware that you might have been using. So if you're running Ubuntu on it, or if you're running some other flavors of Linux, you can just use that, get rid of it, start over. You have basically all the control that you have. The same thing is provided by Google Cloud um, on a cloud computing scale. Handle heavy traffic with load balancing. Okay. It's just like that Pokemon Go example that I just gave. Let's take another one. Imagine like an online shopping site, let's say Amazon, Flipkart. They have a sale between 6 and 9 on some particular day. So all of you will hit that platform and try to take advantage, get everything that you can. And it starts off well, like you can access everything, but soon the website might become a little unresponsive. It might lag. So this is caused due to heavy volume and sudden spikes in traffic, and so this might cause your servers to become overloaded, and you might run out of resources like memory and etc. So what exactly is load balancing? It's the process of distributing network traffic across multiple servers. So you don't have to worry about one having a server overload, or your application crashing and all that. So this ensures that a single server is not overloaded by heavy demand. By spreading the incoming requests like evenly, the load balancing improves the responsiveness and as well as the reliability of your websites. So again, great job if you've gotten so far. Uh, so that was about our machine learning and AI track. Okay, so this is a quest that you have to complete. It's known as Perform Foundational Data, Machine Learning, and AI Tasks in Google Cloud. Okay, so this is especially for students who are like very interested in finding out more about machine learning and artificial intelligence, but you don't know how to get started. Well, this is the course for you. All right, let's take a little cute example. So we have a dog and we have a muffin. So as a human, you can obviously tell which one's which, right? So let's assume that we're not humans, we're computers. If we had to identify the differences, what would be the identifying features? Probably the dog has a nose, eyes, and a muffin has a wrapper around it, right? So these are just basically like distinguishing rules for these two items. But when it comes to something a little more complicated, when it comes to something that's not clearly a perfect picture, you can identify it, yes, but how would a computer do that? What if there's a blueberry muffin? It might assume the eyes and nose as blueberries themselves. So so you can't really make a few rules and say this is it. So it shows that this is really hard coded rules. Doesn't go that far when it helps to classify images. So what do you do? What do you need for this? You Machine learning is basically learned from rules as well as experience. So you can't have one or the other. So you need to make sure that your machine has the experience to do the same. Experience, again, how do you gain experience? You need to practice stuff, right? So the same thing applies for a computer. If you need to make sure that your computer has uh, the enough experience to classify an object, you need to make sure that it gets enough experience with the same. So good machine learning models require lots of high quality training data. I mean, you can feed it about 10 or 100 pictures, right? How do you go beyond that? How do you scale it up to make sure that your machine is more proficient? Google provides you that data. So all you have to worry about is that how your application is work, not how you're going to get that data itself. Okay. So Google's Cloud's machine learning APIs. API stands for Application Programming Interfaces. So what happens really? When it comes to machine learning and all this, Google has its training data to train its models and expose it to machine learning APIs. The one thing that's like great about these APIs is that you don't need uh, they don't need the prior knowledge about machine learning. So basically, that means that Google Cloud handles all the training aspect of machine learning, like gathering data, building predictive models, etc. So you can jump right into the predict phase and give where the API gives you data and information. Okay, Google Cloud Speech to Text API. What does this mean? Google Cloud Speech to Text API basically means that. Let me give you an example. Let's say you go to YouTube and you can't really understand what they're trying to say, so you turn on live captions, right? Or let's think about your virtual assistants like Siri or Google Assistant. It's so easy to just turn them on and ask a question, or just make some task automation or anything, right? How do you think it's like so easy to have such a strong software like turning speech to text, powerful AI services within your pockets? This is when Google Cloud speech to text API comes into play. So you have access to this software right within the Google Cloud platform. You don't have to try and see how it's done. You don't have to, code anything. You don't need to know much about it. It's all available for you to use. All right, so let's get onto the most important concept, which is getting help. I know you guys might have started off with your Qwiklabs and you have tons of questions. You probably don't know if you're allowed to repeat a lab. You don't know if you can complete them in time. That's all right. Let me tell you how you can get help from us and how we can help you complete this. Okay, the first method is right here in your screen. When you're logged into Qwiklabs.com, you will see a chat option on the bottom right corner of your screen. So this opens up a live chat server with the organizers. So you can just click on this and select the department as 30 days of Google Cloud, and you can like tell them about your issue in case your account is blocked or if you just can't access the resources. Just make sure you can do that here. If that still doesn't work, you can always email to dscsupport@qwiklabs.com. Give all the details of the issue, maybe attach screenshots of applicable, and they will respond very quickly. Fine. If you have questions regarding the labs themselves, you don't know how to do it or you don't know how to go about it, you're having some other issues, always like respond in the community WhatsApp group. If you aren't linked already, I think one of your teachers might have sent it on the official groups. You can join us. We will also provide a link for the same. So you can ask all your questions there. Either one of me, Niren, or some of the other presenters will respond, or you can talk to your friends about the same. Finally, if you're not into all that, you can just Google it. There's hundreds of tutorials out there for each and every lab and quests. So you can just look them up, or you can also find Google documents like the one we've attached for the challenge labs. So you can go through that, try to find a solution, and get started with the same. So now what should you really do? Okay, so you can complete the remaining quests in your cloud engineering track. You can earn skill batches simultaneously. That means you can start earning these skill batches at your own pace. You don't have to wait for a time or two, but just make sure that you're earning them before the last date, which is 5th of November. Okay, we also talked about skill badges earlier, right? And it's really easy to earn one when you've already completed a quest. You have to just complete one more challenge lab, and then when you complete all that, you will get skill badge. Okay, so for track one, you will earn six different skill batches for different types of quests that we have. So again, these are all fairly simple. Most of them are just step-by-step instructions, which you just have to look through and follow. So in total, these are the batches that you learn for track one, and these are the batches that you learn to track two. Since the first batch is common for both the tracks, in total, you will be earning around 11 batches. And also share your achievement. What good is all those batches if you don't let people know about them? So go ahead and tag 30 Days of Google Cloud as well as DSC Reva and share them on any social platforms that you want, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, GitHub, anything is good. And if you're still here, thank you so much for joining the session. Uh, I think we completed it within an hour, which is amazing. So again, you guys can ask any questions you might have. And thank you for joining today's session.
Thank you, Sanjana. That was a really wonderful session. We were very helpful with it. Aside from that, there are a few other questions. I'll just go through them. If at all you have any other questions, please keep them coming in the Q&A chat box. Firstly, please explain the difference between Quest and Skill Badge. Quest is basically, let's say, the first 6 labs which Google Qwiklabs will help you to complete. All right, it will provide you all the necessary steps. It will spoon feed you everything, and if at all there is any CLI lines you need to execute, we'll provide you that. Skill Badge, all these quests, plus there'll be one extra challenge lab in the end. This challenge lab, there won't be anything provided by the Qwiklabs. You need to, whatever knowledge you inculcated from the first 6 labs before, the same, it's kind of like a small test, all the 6 combined for one small lab test. So whatever, let's say you learned about creating virtual machine in the first lab. So in the last challenge lab, they'll tell you, they won't provide you all the resources like use this zone, use this name, use this blah blah blah. They won't give you anything. They'll just be like create this virtual machine with this name. So you'll need to create that virtual machine, add the necessary configurations as per your knowledge. Like generally you use only 4 virtual CPUs. That's what you would have learned it in the first lab. So follow the same thing for the final challenge lab. That's the skill badge. So that's the difference between them. More is there actually on the Google website also. How to add skill badge to LinkedIn? So what LinkedIn did was a few years before they removed the option of adding badges to LinkedIn directly. The feature was removed. What can you but I mean you can definitely put it on LinkedIn. So what you do is, this is why the public profile URL was made up. So you can copy the public profile URL, go to your experience section on LinkedIn, use tag DSC Reva for your experience, and not DSC Reva actually. Uh, Tell the 30 days of Google challenge will be the topic, and where you learned it, DSC Reva University. And then you can for the link what it last for the experience there, you can paste this link. So that way you can add the badges. So if anyone wants to look your experience up on cloud, they can always go back to this link, because this link is accessible by anybody. So thirdly, I am getting this error, required flag image not set. So firstly, we can't answer the questions just like this with one line of error. There will definitely be some line motive might have missed. So that will be the error. Uh, if not you get some error like this, please go back and see if you have attempted all the necessary lines and all the procedures. For example, if your virtual machine is getting, just giving an example, if your virtual machine is being initialized, and you're going for the next procedure as soon, even without the virtual machine getting completed, you might face some issues like that. So make sure all the previous procedures are completed. And like I said before, a few